a young black boy, Jaylen, walks into the grand home of his mother's powerful employer, only to face racist humiliation at the hands of Mr. Whitmore, a wealthy executive who sees him as unworthy. What begins as a small moment of cruelty spirals into a powerful storm, whispered pain at the dinner table, Danielle's fierce decision to fight back, and a courtroom drama where truth collides with privilege. Each chapter peels away Whitmore's polished image, exposing not just his prejudice, but a system that protects men like him. Jaylen's trembling silence grows into strength. His mother's private anger becomes a public weapon, and the world outside refuses to look away. From whispered conversations in kitchens to trending hashtags that shake the corporate empire, the story unfolds as a battle between humiliation and dignity, silence and justice, ending with poetic justice that leaves Whitmore broken and Jaylen standing taller than ever. This is not just a story of racism, it's the story of how truth, love, and courage bring down the walls of power built on hate. The glass doors of Carter & Co. National Bank slid open with a faint hiss, letting in the chilly morning air along with a boy who seemed far too small for such an intimidating lobby. Jaylen, Carter, gripped the check in his sweaty hands, folding and unfolding it. His grandmother's handwriting, looping and steady, stared back at him. "Happy 13th, my boy. Cash this and buy something just for you." He repeated in his head what he'd practiced. Walk up, smile, say good morning, hand him the check. Easy. Except his sneakers squeaked against the marble floor, and his hoodie felt too thin under the stares of strangers. At the back of the lobby, Mr. Whitmore, the bank manager, adjusted his tie and narrowed his eyes. "Teller, next, please." Jaylen stepped forward, voice soft but steady. "Jaylen, good morning. I'd like to cash this check, please." The teller, a young woman with tired eyes, glanced at the paper, then at Jay. Her lips pressed together. "Teller, do you have an account here?" "Jaylen, no ma'am, but my grandma does. She said it's okay. She wrote it to me." The teller hesitated, glancing toward Whitmore. That hesitation spoke louder than words. Whitmore strode over, polished shoes tapping sharply against the floor. His presence loomed. "Whitmore, what's going on here?" "Teller, he wants to cash this check, sir. It's from a client. Account's valid." Whitmore took the check, squinting as if it were counterfeit. His eyes darted back to Jaylen. "Whitmore, where did you get this?" Jaylen, confused. "From my grandma. It's my birthday check." Whitmore's lip curled. "Whitmore, a birthday check for this amount?" Jaylen swallowed hard. "Jaylen, yes sir. She saved for me." Customers nearby pretended not to listen, though their ears strained. Whitmore snapped his fingers at security. "Whitmore, call the police. We may have attempted fraud here." Gasps rippled. Jaylen's stomach dropped. "Jaylen," voice shaking, "no, it's real. Please. She gave it to me." Whitmore, mocking son. "Do you know how many times we hear that story?" Jaylen, "But it's true. She's my grandma. Her name's right there." Whitmore, cutting him off. "Save it. You people always have excuses." The words hung heavy, ugly, undeniable. Jaylen's face burned. His hands trembled as security moved closer. The check, his birthday gift, suddenly felt like a weapon in his palm. The narration cut in coldly. In a city of glass towers and steel authority, a child's word was lighter than paper, and his skin was heavier than guilt. Whitmore adjusted his cup, satisfied, as the teller looked down in shame. "Whitmore, sit him down. The police will handle the rest." Jaylen's voice broke as he whispered to no one in particular. "Jaylen, I didn't do anything." The chapter ended with him being pushed into a chair. The sound of a phone dialing 911, echoing like a verdict already sealed. The bank lobby felt colder when the two police officers arrived. Their radios crackled as they pushed through the doors, hands already hovering near their belts. Customers shifted uncomfortably. A child was sitting in a chair, clutching a piece of paper, yet the officers looked at him like he was holding a gun. Officer number 1 gruff, "That the suspect?" Whitmore pointed dramatically at Jay. "Whitmore, yes, tried to pass a fraudulent check." Jaylen's heart hammered. Jaylen stammering, "It's not fake. It sits from my grandma." Officer number 2 mocking, "Oh yeah, grandma, just handing out big checks these days." Laughter flickered between the officers. Customers heard it, and some shook their heads, but no one intervened. The officers loomed over Jaylen, towering shadows. Officer number 1, "Stand up, son." Jaylen obeyed, knees trembling. "Jaylen, please, it's my birthday. She saved it for me." The officer snatched the check from his hands. Officer number 2, "What kind of sneakers are those? Scuffed up, and you're walking in here with this amount?" Jaylen bit his lip. Silence felt safer than words. Narration slipped in like a camera zooming out in a room full of adults. Authority wore uniforms and ties. The child's truth shrank under the weight of their disbelief. The officer held the check toward the light, as if daylight itself would expose its fraudulence. Officer number 1, you know forging checks is a crime, right? Serious time. You're what, 13? Jaylen whispering 13. Officer number 1, old enough to learn consequences. Jaylen flinched. His throat tightened, but he managed a plea. Jaylen, I swear, it's real. Please call my grandma Whitmore. Cutting in. We've heard enough. He came in here looking suspicious from the start. A woman near the line muttered loudly enough to be heard. Customer number 1, suspicious. He's a kid. Whitmore shot her a glare sharp enough to silence. Whitmore, ma'am, we're protecting this bank from fraud. You wouldn't understand the statistics. His words carried the cold confidence of someone used to never being challenged. The officers pressed further. Officer number 2, where do you even live, kid? Somewhere around here. Jaylen, on 45th, with my mom. Officer number 1, your mom? No, you're out here pulling this. Jaylen, crying out, I'm not pulling anything, it's my money. The outburst earned him a shove back into the chair. Gasps fluttered among the crowd. The narration whispered like an indictment. Every shove teaches silence. Every silence cements power. Jaylen's face burned as tears blurred his vision. The check, now crumpled in the officer's fist, looked like trash. Officer number 2 to Whitmore, you did the right thing. Better safe than sorry. Can't have kids thinking they can just walk in here with forged papers. Whitmore adjusted his tie smugly. Whitmore, exactly. Discipline starts young, Jaylen whispered so softly it barely carried. Jaylen, I didn't do anything. Another customer spoke up, voice firm. Customer number 2, this doesn't look right. You're treating him like a criminal. The officer turned. Officer number 1, sir, unless you're involved, step back. The man faltered, retreating into silence. Others looked down at their phones. Recording? Yes. Intervening? No. Officer number 2, listen, son. Either you tell us who really gave you this check, or we take you downtown. You'll like juvenile hall. Jaylen's eyes widened. Jaylen, no, please, it's my grandma. She wanted me to feel special. His voice cracked, betraying the weight of both truth and fear. Whitmore leaned close, whispering so only Jaylen could hear. Whitmore, this is a lesson. People like you don't belong in banks like this. Remember that. The words sliced deeper than the officer's threats. Jaylen's fists clenched in his lap, nails digging into skin. Narration struck again, sharp and cold. Shame is a weapon. Fear is a chain, and both were being fastened around a boy too young to fight back. Officer number 1, here's the deal. Either someone responsible comes down here to vouch for you, or we're done talking. You're coming with us. Jaylen pleading, can I call my mom? Please, just one call. Whitmore rolled his eyes. Whitmore, fine. Humor him. Let him learn when no one picks up. The officers exchanged smirks. Jaylen's hands shook as they handed him the phone. His small fingers dialed. Jaylen, whispering to himself, please pick up, Mom. The call rang. No answer. Officer number 2 mocking. Guess mommy's busy. Jaylen tried his grandmother. Voicemail panic rose like a wave. Jaylen, no, please. Officer number 1, time's up. Kid narration slid in with bitter gravity. Even in daylight, justice can vanish into shadows, especially when no one dares to shine a light. The officers stood ready to cuff him, their hands twitching at their belts. Whitmore crossed his arms, satisfied. The chapter closed with Jaylen's quiet sob, echoing in the marble hall. Jaylen, I just wanted to cash my birthday check. And the silence that followed was heavier than chains. The lobby had grown tense, like air pressed tight in a jar. Jaylen sat small in the chair, cheeks wet, hands clenched. The officers loomed, and Whitmore stood tall, as if he were the judge and jury of the marble room. But in the corners, murmurs stirred. People were watching. Customer number 1, the Latina mother, whispering to her teen daughter, he's just a boy. Her voice carried further than she intended. Whitmore turned sharply. Whitmore, ma'am, I suggest you stay out of matters you don't understand. This is bank security protocol. Customer number 1 firm now. Protocol doesn't look like bullying a child. The officer nearest her took a step forward. Officer number 2, lady, you want to interfere with an active investigation? The mother shrank back, but her daughter clutched her hand. Narration slipped in like a whisper. Fear keeps crowds quiet, but outrage begins with a single crack in silence. An older man with a cane shifted uncomfortably. Customer number 2. This looks bad. A boy with a check, and you're calling cops. Whitmore's jaw tightened. Whitmore, sir. With respect, fraud is a serious issue. Statistics show youth, particularly those from disadvantaged backgrounds, are more likely to attempt schemes like this. Gasps broke out. The words were polite, but the meaning was poison. Customer number 2, snapping. Say what you mean. You're talking about his skin. The room fell silent. Eyes turned to Whitmore. Whitmore adjusted his tie, voice smooth like oil. Whitmore, this bank serves all communities, but let's not be naive. We have to protect assets. Customer number 1, from children. Whitmore's lips twitched into something between a sneer and a smirk. Jaylen's voice, small but clear, broke through. Jaylen, I didn't do anything. My grandma, she wanted me to feel proud today. The officer cut him off. Officer number 1, quiet. We've heard enough. The boy's words fell flat, drowned by authority. Narration pressed hard. Injustice thrives when truth is silenced and lies are amplified. A man with his phone raised stepped closer. Customer number 3, I'm recording this, just so you know. Whitmore spun toward him. Whitmore, you can't record inside a private institution. Customer #3, funny, you didn't stop anyone else with their phones out. You only care now. Several more customers lifted their phones higher, no longer hiding. The air shifted. Power wasn't entirely one-sided anymore. The officers exchanged a glance. Their confidence faltered for a beat, then stiffened again. Officer number 2, everyone calm down. Let us do our job. Customer number 2 muttering. Some job. Jaylen looked around, tears blurring his sight. For the first time, he noticed strangers looking at him not with suspicion, but with sympathy. Jaylen, quietly, to himself. Somebody, believe me, please. Whitmore raised his voice, commanding the room. Whitmore, this child attempted fraud. We will resolve this as the law requires. Any interference will be considered obstruction. The words rang hollow now, bouncing against walls lined with cameras in people's hands. Narration cut in. Authority trembles when eyes multiply. Darkness resists when light insists on entering. One of the officers reached for cuffs. Officer number 1, enough. Hands behind your back. Kid Jaylen froze. His lip quivered. Jaylen, but I didn't. A small chorus of voices rose. Customer number 1, he's a child. Customer number 2, you can't cuff him for trying to cash a check. Customer number 3, this is profiling. Phones angled closer. The officer hesitated, hand hovering. The shift was visible now, controls slipping through their grasp like sand. Whitmore hissed through clenched teeth. Whitmore, do it. Don't let them intimidate you. But doubt had entered the room. Narration sharpened like glass. Cracks spread quietly. Then suddenly, what was unshakable now trembled with every voice raised, every camera aimed, every silence broken. Jaylen clutched the armrest, whispering one last plea. Jaylen, please, just call my mom. The chapter ended on that fragile request. Hanging in the thick air, surrounded by the sound of dozens of recordings capturing the truth Whitmore wanted buried. The air in the lobby pulsed with tension. Phones were still raised. The officers loomed, but their hands no longer moved so freely toward the cuffs. Whitmore's face had hardened into stone, determined not to lose control. Jaylen's chest rose and fell rapidly. His throat was raw, but he forced the words out. Jaylen, please, just let me call my mom, please. The younger officer rolled his eyes. Officer number 2, kid, you think your mommy's gonna waltz in here and make this go away? Laughter flickered in Whitmore's eyes. Whitmore, fine, give him a phone. Let him learn what responsibility feels like when no one answers. Narration crept in like a verdict. Even mercy was delivered as mockery. A security guard reluctantly handed over the desk phone. Jaylen's small hands trembled as he dialed the number he knew by heart. Jaylen whispering, come on, Mom, pick up. The ring tone filled the silence. Once, twice, 3 times. Voicemail. Automated voice. You've reached Danielle Carter. Please leave a message. Jaylen's lips quivered. Jaylen, Mom, it's me. Please, I'm at the bank. They don't believe me. Please come. His voice cracked on the last word. The officers exchanged smirks. Officer number 1, guess Mommy's busy. Whitmore chuckled low. Whitmore, lesson 1, son. When you play grown-up games, you face grown-up consequences. No one's coming to save you. Narration cut sharply. Abusers mistake silence for absence, but silence is only delay. Jaylen's fingers flew again, dialing his grandmother. He pressed the phone tight to his ear. Ringing, more ringing, then voicemail. Jaylen, Grandma, it's me. Please call back, please. The beep ended the message. Cold and final. Officer number 2, mocking. Strike 2. Jaylen wiped his eyes with the sleeve of his hoodie. His chest ached with the weight of humiliation pressing down. He hesitated, then remembered another number. His mom's assistant, Ms. Reynolds. She had always been kind, always answered. Hand shaking. He dialed. Ms. Reynolds, urgent, answering on first ring. Honey, what's wrong? Why are you calling from the bank's line? Jaylen nearly sobbed in relief. Jaylen, they don't believe me. They say my check is fake. Please, I need Mom. Her voice sharpened immediately. Ms. Reynolds, who doesn't believe you? Are you safe? Jaylen's eyes darted to the officers hovering over him. Jaylen whispering, police are here. They want to take me. The silence on her end was like a storm forming. Ms. Reynolds clipped. Stay calm. Don't move. I'm getting your mother right now. Click. The call ended. Narration struck like thunder. The boardroom was about to meet the battlefield, and none of them knew it yet. Whitmore leaned down, smirking. Whitmore, so, did your babysitter promise to rescue you? Jaylen held the phone tightly, for once not answering. His silence carried defiance now. The officers crossed their arms, restless. Officer number 1, if no adult shows up in 5 minutes, we're taking him down to the station. End of story. Jaylen's stomach twisted. His body curled small in the chair, but a spark flickered in his chest. Fragile hope. Someone was coming. Customers exchanged whispers. Customer number 1 quietly. To customer number 2. He's calling for help. He's just a kid. Customer number 2. And they don't care, but maybe someone will show. Phones remained raised, recording everything. The world outside those glass doors was only a push of a button away. Narration closed the chapter with a slow, heavy beat. They mocked the child for reaching out, but every ring, every unanswered call, was pulling power closer, and when it arrived, it would not knock, it would break the doors open. Jaylen sat in silence, clutching the receiver, whispering to himself, Jaylen, she's coming, she has to. And in the distance, sirens weren't the only sound approaching. The bank lobby had gone strangely quiet. Jaylen sat small in the chair, his fists balled in his lap, heart pounding. Every tick of the wall clock stretched like an eternity. The officers loomed. Whitmore smirked, already imagining himself vindicated. Then the glass doors burst open. A gust of cold air swept in, along with a woman in a tailored navy suit, heels striking the marble floor like thunder. Her presence consumed the space instantly. Customers turned, phones lifted higher. Ms. Reynolds rushing behind her. There he is. Ma'am. Jaylen's head snapped up, his eyes filled with tears. Jaylen choking out, Mom. He bolted from the chair, crashing into her arms. Danielle Carter, CEO of Carter & Co., National Bank, held her son tight, her hand on the back of his head. Her face, however, was not motherly tenderness, it was fury sharpened into steel. Narration cut in, heavy and deliberate. Authority had walked in wearing heels, and suddenly, all the power in the room belonged to the boy they'd tried to break. Danielle lifted her head, eyes scanning the scene. The officers, Whitmore, the watching crowd. Her voice sliced through the silence. Danielle, what happened here? Whitmore straightened, forcing a smile that wavered at the edges. Whitmore, Mrs. Carter. Danielle snapping, that's Ms. Carter, and you will answer me clearly. What is going on with my son? The officers exchanged glances. Whitmore forced another smile, sweat already forming at his temple. Whitmore, this young man attempted to cash what appeared to be a fraudulent check. As bank manager, it is my duty to. Danielle cutting him off. Fraudulent. She took the crumpled paper from the officer's hand, smoothed it delicately, and read it aloud. Danielle paid to the order of Jaylen Carter, signed Evelyn Carter. My mother? His grandmother. Account verified. Her eyes lifted, blazing. Danielle, you called the police on my son for cashing a birthday check from his grandmother. Narration sharpened. The marble lobby had become a courtroom, and every word was now evidence. The officers shifted, suddenly uneasy. Officer number 1, ma'am, we were called under suspicion. Danielle snapping. Suspicion based on what? His skin, his sneakers, or simply because he dared to walk into a bank that bears our name? Gasps rippled. Phones captured every word. Whitmore. Disperatin, Senora Carter. I assure you, my concern was purely for the bank's safety. We cannot be too careful in Danielle Isley. Do not insult me with that script. I built this institution. I know its policies, and I know exactly what you did. Jaylen pressed closer to her side, eyes wide. For the first time all day, he felt safe. Protected. Jaylen whispering, they didn't believe me. Danielle crouched briefly, brushing his cheek with her thumb. Danielle softly, to him, they will now. Then she rose again, towering in command. Narration swept like a camera pan. The room was no longer a bank lobby. It was a stage, and the play had shifted. The child was no longer the defendant. The accusers were customer number 1 whispering to her daughter, "That's his mom. She's the CEO." Customer number 2 muttering, "Oh, he's not just safe. They're in trouble." Danielle turned on the officers. Danielle, badge numbers, now. The officers stiffened. Officer number 2, "Ma'am, we." Danielle cutting like a knife. Badge numbers. Reluctantly, they recited them. Customers typed them into phones. Danielle, "Good, because you'll be hearing from internal affairs." Whitmore tried to regain control. Whitmore, "Ms. Carter, surely we can discuss this privately." "No need to." Danielle furious, voice echoing, "No, we will discuss it here. In front of every customer you humiliated my son in front of every camera that now holds proof of your prejudice." Applause broke out in the back. Someone shouted, "Yes." Whitmore's face drained of color. Jaylen tugged her sleeve, whispering, "Jaylen," he said, "people like me don't belong in banks like this." Danielle's eyes locked on Whitmore, venomous. Danielle low, dangerous. "Did you?" Whitmore faltered, mouth opening and closing. Whitmore, "May have been misinterpreted." Danielle, "No, you were understood perfectly." Narration burned. For every child silenced by shame, there comes a moment when truth is spoken so loudly it drowns out centuries of lies. Customers raised their phones higher. Some clapped, others shouted encouragement. Customer number 3, "Tell him, Miss Carter." Customer number 1, "Hold him accountable." The lobby transformed into a chorus of resistance. Whitmore's hands trembled slightly. His authority, once absolute, was crumbling like sandcastles against a rising tide. Danielle stepped closer, her voice calm but lethal. "Danielle, Mr. Whitmore, you had the audacity to call armed officers on a child. Not just any child, my son. You humiliated him, endangered him, and exposed this bank to liability that you cannot begin to imagine. Tell me, why should you still have a job?" Whitmore stammered, sweat beading his forehead. "Whitmore, I was only doing my duty." Danielle snapping, "Your duty is to protect our customers, not to criminalize them for existing." Jaylen clutched her hand tighter. For the first time since walking into the bank, he felt taller. Narration whispered, he had been small in their eyes, but in hers, he was enough. And now the world would see him through her gaze. The chapter ended on a cliffhanger. Danielle's voice ringing like judgment. "Danielle, did you just call the police on the CEO's son?" And silence answered louder than any confession. The lobby was a storm. Phones glowed like fireflies, all pointed toward the epicenter. Danielle Carter, CEO, standing with her son beside her. Whitmore looked pale, his suit suddenly too large. His authority, once absolute, trembled under the weight of public eyes. Danielle didn't blink. "Danielle, you called the police on the CEO's son. On my son. Do you understand the magnitude of what you've done?" Narration swept in like a voiceover. There are moments when silence is more dangerous than words, and Whitmore's silence was deafening. Whitmore stammering, I acted on protocol. There were inconsistencies, suspicious behavior." Danielle cut through like a blade. "Danielle, suspicious." He presented valid identification, a legitimate check from a Carter & Co. account. "The only thing suspicious here is your bias." Murmurs rippled. Someone muttered, "Exactly." Another whispered, "Say it louder." Customer number 1 calling out, "We saw it all. He treated that boy like a criminal." Whitmore flushed crimson. Whitmore snapping defensively, "Ma'am, you must understand, forged checks are common. I was protecting the bank's assets." DanielleIC.com. "The bank's assets? You mean my asset? This institution exists because I built it, and today, you endangered the very heart of it, my family." Narration tightened, for Whitmore. The marble floors had become quicksand. Every word he spoke dragged him deeper. Officer number 1, interjecting carefully, "Ma'am, with all due respect, We only responded to the call. We weren't aware of Danielle cutting in. Not aware. You were aware enough to treat a 12-year-old like a suspect, to put your hands on him, to make him feel small in the very bank his family owns. The officers shifted uncomfortably. One lowered his gaze. Jaylen spoke up, voice trembling but firm. Jaylen, they told me, people like me don't belong here. The crowd gasped. Phones tilted closer. Danielle's jaw clenched so hard her cheekbones sharpened on Danielle to Whitmore, seething. Did you say that? Whitmore froze, panic flickering in his eyes. Whitmore, that may have been misunderstood. Danielle exploding. No, that was understood perfectly. Applause erupted in the back. Someone shouted, accountability. Narration rose. Every prejudice whispered in shadows was now dragged into light. There was no hiding, no retreat. Whitmore tried to backpedal, his voice trembling. Whitmore, please, Miss Carter, let's resolve this discreetly. For the sake of the bank's image, Danielle thunderous, the image of this bank will not be tarnished by my son. It will be tarnished by you. She took a deliberate step closer. He flinched. Danielle, you are not protecting this institution. You are poisoning it. And every camera here is proof. The audience clapped again, louder this time, like a wave crashing against the shore. Customer number 2 recording. This is going viral tonight. Customer number 3 whispering. That manager's finished. Whitmore's composure cracked. His voice turned pleading. Whitmore, Miss Carter, I've been with this bank for 20 years. I've dedicated my life. Danielle cutting him like glass. And in 20 seconds, you undid it. Loyalty does not excuse discrimination. Tenure does not erase prejudice. She leaned in, her words sharp enough to scar. Danielle, you didn't just disrespect a customer. You disrespected my son, and that is unforgivable. Narration pulled in close. Jaylen watched his mother transform. She was no longer just his protector. She was justice itself, wearing his last name like armor. The officers cleared their throats, uncomfortable. Officer number 2, Miss Carter, should we stand down? Danielle turned her gaze, sharp as ice. Danielle, you should never have stood up against him in the first place. The officers exchanged looks, then quietly stepped back. Their presence shrank, no longer looming. Whitmore's voice quavered. Whitmore, Miss Carter, please, can we find a way forward? Danielle studied him for a long, searing moment. Then she spoke, each word deliberate. Danielle, the way forward begins with accountability. You will publicly apologize to my son. Here now. Whitmore's lips parted in horror. Whitmore, in front of everyone. Danielle, razor sharp, in front of everyone. Because humiliation in public demands justice in public. The crowd erupted in cheers. Phones tilted higher, eager to capture the moment. Narration surged. There are apologies whispered in corners, safe and hidden. And then there are apologies that taste like ash, because they must be swallowed whole. Under the weight of truth. Whitmore swallowed hard, turning toward his voice cracked. Whitmore, I apologize. I was wrong to suspect you. I was wrong to treat you the way I did. Jaylen stared at him, silent. Danielle's voice pressed, relentless. Danielle, say it all. Say why. Whitmore hesitated, trembling. Whitmore, because I let prejudice cloud my judgment, because I saw you and assumed you didn't belong. I was wrong. I am sorry. Gasps echoed. Some customers clapped, others murmured. The truth had been dragged out like poison from a wound. Danielle placed her hand on Jaylen's shoulder. He stood taller. Jaylen, quiet but strong. You should have believed me the first time. The room hushed. Whitmore flinched, shamed. Narration softened. The boy who entered small now stood taller than the man who had tried to break him. Danielle turned back to Whitmore. Voice final. Danielle, effective immediately. You are suspended. HR will contact you. Consider this your last day at Carter & Co. Whitmore sagged, the fight gone from his body. The applause that followed was deafening. Narration closed the chapter. Injustice had entered with a smirk, but it was leaving in shame, and the boy who had been silenced found his voice echoed through every phone, every witness, every beating heart in that lobby. The applause still thundered through the marble lobby. Whitmore slumped in his chair, face pale, his authority scattered like ashes. Jaylen leaned against his mother, her arm wrapped protectively around him, but her eyes stayed fixed forward, sharp and unyielding. Phones remained raised, recording, streaming, sharing. What had started as whispers was now a storm racing beyond the glass doors. Customer number 1, excitedly. To another, this is already online. My cousin in Atlanta just texted me, said it's trending. Customer number 2, good. Let the world see how they treat us. Customer number 3 softly. To Jaylen, you were brave, sweetheart. Don't ever forget that. Jaylen blinked, overwhelmed, but managed a small nod. Narration pressed in. The story had outgrown the walls of the bank. It was no longer a private humiliation. It was public record, written in pixels and posted in fury. A reporter rushed through the revolving doors, camera bag bouncing against his side. His voice carried across the lobby. Reporter, Miss Carter, we've seen the footage. Can we get a statement? Whitmore's head shot up in horror. Whitmore pleading. Please, Danielle, don't. This will destroy us. Danielle's gaze was steel. Danielle, you already destroyed yourself. She turned toward the reporter, shoulders squared. Danielle, my son came here to deposit his own check. He was treated as a criminal because of the color of his skin. That is the story. Gasps echoed. The reporter scribbled furiously, then lifted his phone to record. Reporter, do you plan to press charges? Danielle measured. Powerful. We will pursue every avenue necessary for accountability, not just for my son, but for every child who has ever been told they don't belong. Applause roared again, louder than before. Narration slid in. She was no longer only a mother. She was a symbol. Every word carved into the air was carried by the crowd like gospel. Whitmore stumbled to his feet, voice cracking. Whitmore, this is madness. We'll be ruined. You'll be ruined too. Customer number 2 calling out, ruined? You tried to ruin a child. You just got caught. Customer number 4 to Whitmore, bitter, we all saw who you are. Don't blame her. Blame yourself. Whitmore's hands shook. His words dissolved under the noise. Meanwhile, Jaylen tugged at his mother's sleeve. Jaylen, quietly, Mom, I just wanted to do the right thing. Danielle bent down, meeting his eyes. Danielle soft, fierce, and you did. Never doubt that. What they tried to do doesn't define you. What you did defines you. Jaylen's chest swelled. For the first time since stepping into the bank, he believed it. Another wave of reporters entered, microphones and cameras raised. The crowd of customers shifted, some moving closer, others holding their phones higher. Reporter number 2, Ms. Carter. Will this affect Carter and Co.'s leadership moving forward? Danielle straightened, commanding the room. Danielle, this bank's leadership will reflect the values we claim to uphold: fairness, integrity, justice. If that means removing people who fail those values, then yes, change is coming. The crowd cheered. Narration hummed low. Whitmore had come into work expecting routine. Instead, he had written his resignation in the blood of his own arrogance. One of the officers finally spoke, voice low, hesitant. Officer number 1, ma'am, if we may, we owe your son an apology too. The lobby hushed. Jaylen's eyes widened, wary. Danielle's expression stayed unreadable. Officer number 1 turning to Jaylen. We should have listened. We should have questioned what we were told, not you. I'm sorry. Officer number 2 nodding. We let bias guide our actions. That was wrong. Jaylen didn't answer at first, then he spoke, his voice small but steady. Jaylen, next time, believe the kid before you grab him. The room erupted in agreement, shouts of "that's right," and "listen to him," ringing out. Narration deepened. It wasn't just a lesson for the men in uniform, it was a lesson for everyone who had ever doubted, dismissed, or looked away. Whitmore's composure snapped entirely. He slammed his hand against the counter, voice wild. Whitmore, I gave my life to this place, and you'll regret humiliating me like this. Danielle's tone was ice.calm yet final. Danielle, no, what you'll regret is thinking you could humiliate a child and walk away untouched. Whitmore froze. The words struck harder than any blow. The crowd shifted again, some recording his breakdown, others shaking their heads. A mother in the back pulled her child closer, whispering, remember this. Remember what happens when you stand. Narration softened as the chapter wound down. The tide had turned. Power no longer sat behind the desk in a suit and tie. It stood barefoot in sneakers, clutching a crumpled check held by the hand of his mother, and the world was watching. Danielle guided Jaylen toward the exit, her voice low but certain. Danielle, we're done here, but this is just the beginning. Jaylen looked back once at Whitmore, then at the crowd still cheering. His heart, though bruised, felt lighter. Jaylen, whispering to himself, they finally heard me. And with that, the doors opened, spilling them into a world already ablaze with their story. The night sky outside the bank glowed with flashing cameras. By morning, the world was on fire. Narration surged. Injustice had been live-streamed, clipped, captioned, and shared. What began as humiliation in a lobby became headlines across every screen. A television anchor's voice cut through living rooms across the country. Anchor on TV. A viral video shows Carter & Co. bank manager Gregory Whitmore calling the police on a 12-year-old boy attempting to deposit a check. That boy is the son of CEO Danielle Carter. The video has now been viewed over 20 million times. Twitter feeds screamed in unison. Tweet number 1. Imagine being so racist you call the cops on your CEO's kid. Hashtag bank while black. Tweet number 2. Jaylen Carter is braver than half the adults I know. Protect black kids. Tweet number 3. Whitmore trending for all the wrong reasons. Career over inside Carter & Co.'s headquarters. The boardroom was packed. The atmosphere was electric, heavy with tension. Screens on the wall replayed the viral clip. Whitmore sneering, Jaylen trembling, Danielle storming in. Whitmore sat hunched at the far end, sweat glistening. His tie was gone, his hands trembling. Board member number 1, Gregory, this is catastrophic. Do you realize what you've done? Whitmore desperate. I was following protocol. I didn't know he was board member number 2 snapping. Stop. You didn't need to know he was the CEO's son to treat him with dignity. Danielle entered, silence following her like a shadow. She placed her phone on the table, screen still glowing with notifications. Danielle, the world is watching. They're waiting to see if this board has a spine. The members shifted nervously. Narration sharpened. For years, the board had hidden behind polished press releases, but this time, spin was useless. The truth was on video, undeniable, and raw. Board member number 3, hesitant. Danielle, perhaps we can issue a statement of regret. Suspend Gregory until Danielle cut them off, her tone flat. Danielle, suspend. The man humiliated my son, endangered him, and by extension, this company's reputation. This is not a suspension matter. This is termination. Whitmore's face drained of color. Whitmore pleading, Danielle, please, I've given this company 20 years. Don't do this to me. Double quotes. Danielle cold. You did this to yourself. 20 years of work does not excuse one act of cruelty. You don't belong here. Narration swept wide. Poetic justice doesn't whisper. It strikes like lightning. And Whitmore stood at the center of the storm, back online. Hashtags multiplied. Hashtag justice for Jaylen. Hashtag Carter Bank. Hashtag end banking bias. Every major outlet picked it up. Customers threatened to pull accounts unless action was taken. Politicians retweeted the clip. Celebrities posted their outrage. Jaylen, meanwhile, sat at home in sweatpants, clutching his phone. His grandmother sat beside him, rubbing his shoulder. Grandma, baby, are you okay? Jaylen's eyes were wide as he scrolled. Jaylen, grandma, look, people are talking about me everywhere. They believe me. Tears welled in her eyes. Grandma, of course they do. You were brave. You told the truth. The world just finally had to listen. His phone buzzed again, a text from his mom. Danielle text, proud of you, always. Jaylen smiled through the ache in his chest. Narration leaned close. Children carry wounds in silence. But tonight, Jaylen carried something else to proof that his voice mattered. Back at headquarters, the boardroom vote was swift. Board chair, all in favor of termination. Hands raised around the table. All but Whitmore's. Board chair, motion carried. Gregory Whitmore, your employment with Carter & Co. is terminated. Effective immediately. Whitmore's head dropped into his hands. Whitmore broken. It wasn't supposed to end like this. Danielle stood, gathering her papers. Danielle, it was always going to end like this. The only surprise is that it took so long. Narration pressed. Prejudice builds careers on rotten foundations, and when the walls fall, they do not fall quietly. Outside, reporters swarmed, microphones flashing. Danielle faced them with Jaylen's photo on her phone background glowing through the case. Reporter number 1, Ms. Carter, what message do you have for families watching this unfold? Danielle's gaze was steady. Danielle, teach your children that their worth is not negotiable, that no one has the right to make them feel small, and remind them, justice may be delayed, but it is never denied. Cheers erupted from the crowd. Narration closed like a camera pulling back. What began as one boy in a chair had become a movement, and though scars would remain, so would the echo of his voice, stronger than shame, louder than fear. Jaylen's name, once whispered in fear, in that cold marble lobby, now burned across headlines as a symbol of resilience. Whitmore's house was dark when he pulled into the driveway. His tie lay crumpled on the passenger seat, his phone buzzing nonstop with notifications he refused to check. For a long time, he sat in silence, staring at the faint glow of his porch light. Then he pressed his head against the steering wheel and whispered to himself, "Whitmore, it's just a mistake, just a mistake." But mistakes didn't trend worldwide. Narration slid in. Humiliation behind closed doors is survivable. Humiliation broadcast to millions is exile. His phone buzzed again. A voicemail. He pressed play. Voicemail. His sister's voice. "Greg, what did you do? The whole family's calling. You've shamed us. Don't come by for a while. Just don't." Whitmore's chest tightened. He threw the phone onto the passenger floor. Online. The storm didn't let up. Tweet number 1. Whitmore fired. Good riddance. Tweet number 2. Racism has consequences. Finally, tweet number 3. You tried to break a child, and now you're broken. At a nearby diner, 2 customers watched the news replay of Danielle forcing Whitmore to apologize. Customer A. That's the face of a man who thought he could get away with it. Customer B. He's not the first, won't be the last, but at least this one didn't walk away clean. Meanwhile, in Jaylen's home, the boy sat on the couch, legs curled under him. His mother had returned late, still in her suit, exhaustion etched into her face. "Jaylen, Mom, what happens to him now?" Danielle exhaled slowly. "Danielle, he'll face the consequences. The world will move on." But she leaned forward, eyes fierce. "You must never believe that what he did defines you." "It defines him." Jaylen hesitant. "But why me? Why did he look at me like that?" Danielle swallowed hard. "Danielle, because there are people who look at the color of our skin and see threat instead of truth. That's the sickness. That's what we fight." Jaylen stared down at his hands. Jaylen whispering, "I don't want to fight forever." Danielle pulled him into her arms. "Danielle, you won't have to fight alone." Narration lingered. For every wound left by prejudice, there was also healing, not instant, not perfect, but rooted in love that refused to break. Whitmore sat in his kitchen, the television blaring, the very video he had tried to forget. He couldn't escape it. Danielle's voice echoed through the speakers. Humiliation in public demands justice in public. He slammed the remote down, but the words had already lodged in his skull. The phone rang again. This time, his former assistant. Assistant cold. "Greg, HR's locked you out of all systems. They told me to collect your keys tomorrow. Just thought you should know." The line went dead. Narration pressed down. He had spent decades building a tower of power. Tonight, it collapsed in a single breath from the woman he'd underestimated. The next morning, Whitmore ventured out. At the coffee shop, conversations stopped as soon as he walked in. Phones tilted. Someone whispered, "That's him." Another said, "Disgusting." Whitmore grabbed his coffee, trembling, then hurried out. For the first time, he understood what it meant to be marked. Meanwhile, Danielle prepared for a press conference. Jaylen sat in the front row, his grandmother beside him. The cameras flashed as Danielle spoke. "Danielle, this isn't just about my son. It's about every child who has been told they don't belong. It's about the systems that allow this behavior to repeat unchecked. Carter & Co. will be implementing mandatory anti-bias training, community oversight, and a zero-tolerance policy for discrimination at every level." Reporters scribbled furiously. Applause followed. Reporter Miss Carter, "What about Whitmore? Any legal steps?" Danielle's eyes didn't waver. "Danielle, we are exploring all options. Accountability doesn't end with termination. It begins there." The audience erupted again. Narration widened. Justice was not perfect, but it was public. And for once, it leaned toward the child instead of away from him. At home, Jaylen scrolled through his phone. Messages from strangers filled his inbox. Message 1, "You're a hero, kid." Message 2, "You reminded me of my son. Thank you for standing tall." Message 3, "Don't let the world break you." Jaylen smiled faintly. He still felt the sting. But now it was wrapped in warmth from voices he'd never met. Back in his dark kitchen, Whitmore whispered to himself again, voice breaking, "Whitmore, it was just a mistake." But the world outside didn't care. The world had already decided. Narration sealed the chapter. For the boy, this was a beginning. For the man, this was an ending. Poetic justice had no sympathy, no appeal, no loophole. It gave back exactly what was given. Humiliation for humiliation, silence for silence. And in that exchange, the world shifted, if only a little.